Let's get right into it. Fear is the only thing holding you back. Not your past, not your circumstances, and not your potential. Just fear. And not even your fear most of the time. Fear that was installed in you, handed to you before you even knew who you were, before you ever had an opportunity to develop your own beliefs and ideas about yourself and the world around you. But if you're here now, it means something in you is ready. Ready to break free, to break through, ready to stop surviving and start really living. Hey, I'm Mike Oglesbee, and this is one of the most important messages I've ever shared. Because the work I do, it's not just about healing anxiety or overcoming depression, building confidence, or even just about shifting mindsets. It's about helping people wake up from fear based living and to remember what it feels like to be free. Not safely numb, not managing, and not coping. I mean, really free. If you've ever felt like you're doing all the right things, but something keeps pulling you back, if you continue to sabotage yourself, or when you're on the verge of doing something great, you then shrink back to the shadows, then you're likely dealing with faulty programming, limiting beliefs, false ideas about yourself and your world. Most of us were programmed to fear rejection, failure, being seen, getting it wrong, losing control, and I think worst of all, not being enough. And because all that programming runs beneath the surface, we live in loops. Loops where we start something new, then quit when it gets real, or when we lose the initial excitement we began with. Playing small to stay liked or accepted, staying busy to avoid the discomfort of that emotional upheaval produced by the conflicts lurking beneath the surface, or having to prove, perform, or even protect ourselves instead of just being who we are. Here's the tricky thing about fear. It doesn't always show up as panic or paralysis. Sometimes fear disguises itself as perfectionism, overthinking, delaying or procrastinating, saying yes when you want to say no or when it comes at the expense of your peace and happiness, playing it safe or not taking even calculated risks to gain traction or momentum in those areas that we feel drawn to, or even staying humble when it's actually self-sabotage and self-abandonment. You see, fear is clever, but once you see it, once you step into it and rise with the armor of truth on your side, you can stop it from leading your life. Let me be open and honest with you. There was a point in my life when I was outwardly together, but inwardly I was paralyzed by fear. Looking back, fear has been the most persistent thief and disruptor in my life. Sure, I was great at masking my fear with overcompensations like unnecessary and dangerous risk taking, rebellion, narcissism, and anger. But it was an ever present silent force that ruled me like a king. I feared being misunderstood. I feared failing in front of people. I feared not being good enough. And because of this, I shrunk. I put on a mask, and my life became this expression of chaos that frequently erupted into destruction and suffering. And the more I ran from the fear, the more my life just reflected it back to me. But through my journey of personal growth, I've learned to face my fears, to stand toe to toe and battle it out. I refused to be defined by fear. I was unwilling to live in such misery and hell any longer. And that's when everything changed. Not because the fear disappeared, because it didn't. Now, new fears still emerged that I never even realized existed before. As you confront one fear or struggle, new ones can surface, leading to new realizations about how deeply entangled we've become in a life of fear and overcompensation. But everything changed for me when I stopped confusing my fear with the truth, when I stopped buying into those lies that imprisoned me into the confines of my fears. Fear is a biological signal. It's meant to keep you safe from real danger, and it's built into our psyche. But when you've been through trauma, when you've been programmed to survive instead of thrive, that signal gets distorted, which can cause you to feel fear, even when attempting to do simple things like speaking your truth, setting a boundary, receiving and giving love, and even succeeding. The fear isn't because it's wrong, it's because it's unfamiliar. And your subconscious loves what's familiar more than what's freeing. Most people try to build a new life while still running from the parts of themselves that they're afraid to look at. But healing isn't about avoidance, it's about awareness. I often say if you don't feel it, you can't heal it. You don't defeat fear by fighting it. You defeat fear by understanding it. Because when you bring fear into the light, it loses its grip. Fear can never stand up to the truth. And when you've stood up to your fear, you find greater clarity, greater freedom to make the choices that align with your true self, and you connect with your true power. One of the most interesting things I've seen over the years of helping people is that many try to avoid what they fear, and in doing so, they end up creating it. For example, a young lady I was working with was in a toxic relationship, and she often found herself not speaking up when she felt something was off or when she felt she was being mistreated. She said she felt like she was always walking on eggshells because her partner seemed to be angry a lot. And so when I asked her, why don't you speak up for yourself when you feel mistreated? She said she didn't want to upset him. She didn't want to rock the boat. But the boat was constantly rocking. Her partner was constantly upset anyway. See, the very thing she was trying to avoid was the very thing she was experiencing. Interestingly enough, the only way things were going to change was to no longer avoid what she feared, and instead step up and speak up. Look, fears don't typically dissipate on their own. They require us to find the courage to face them. And when she finally realized the truth of her strategy, she was able to take more effective steps toward her goal, which not only helped her, but it also helped her partner eventually get the help he needed for his struggles and his anger management issues. Let me share with you a simple yet powerful 4-step process to move from fear to freedom. Step one, name it. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. Ask yourself, what is the fear behind this pattern? Is it the fear of being judged, of being alone, of failing in front of people, of succeeding and being seen? Put a name to the fear, because the moment you name it, it stops running the show from the shadows. This is no longer hidden from me. I see it, and that gives me choice. Step two, accept it. Now, this might sound counterintuitive, but hear me out. Acceptance doesn't give the fear permission to stay. It gives you permission to stop fighting it and to start freeing yourself from it. Most people get stuck here because they resist the fear. They shame it. They pretend it's not there, or they try to bulldoze through it with hustle and grit. But what we resist persists. Acceptance isn't saying this fear is okay. It's saying this fear exists. I don't have to like it, but I'm done letting it control me. This neutralizes the emotional charge, the shame, the guilt, the resistance, so you can finally move into power. I'm no longer at war with myself. I'm moving into power. Step three, challenge it. Look, I believe we should challenge just about everything in life. Fear always exists to protect something. So ask, what is this fear trying to protect me from? How is it trying to help me? Now, maybe the fear of being seen is trying to protect you from past humiliation. Maybe the fear of failure is trying to keep you from feeling inadequate. Maybe the fear of success is tied to the belief that success means isolation, pressure, or losing control. And once you know how your fear is trying to help you, you can ask the real question. Is there a healthier, more empowering way to meet that need? Can I feel safe without staying small? Can I succeed without isolating myself? Can I be seen and still be protected? This is where the programming breaks and where you take your power back. I'm done believing what was never true. And finally, step four, reframe and reclaim. This is where you rewrite the script and start living the new identity. What belief do I choose now that's rooted in truth, not fear? How can I begin practicing that truth today, even in the smallest ways? Maybe it's speaking up in a conversation. Maybe it's applying for the opportunity. Maybe it's simply saying, I am enough, even here. You reclaim your power by living the truth, not just by knowing it. That's when fear stops defining your reality and your identity, and you begin to embody the creator you've always been. This is who I choose to be now. I had a client who had all the skills, all the ideas, but every time it came to putting herself out there, she froze. Underneath it all, she was terrified of being judged. Not because she lacked talent, but because somewhere deep inside, she believed that being seen as successful was dangerous or a threat. We worked together to unwind the fear and to rewrite the story. Today, she leads a team, she speaks on stages, and most importantly, she likes herself in the process because she's no longer living by the fear. She's living by the truth. Let's land this for a moment. The fear you've been carrying, it's not proof that you're weak. It's proof that you've been surviving. But now you're safe to grow. You're safe to speak. You're safe to be seen. You're safe to rest. You're safe to succeed. You're safe to live without carrying everyone else's weight. The version of you that had to shrink to survive, thank them. I mean, it was there to protect you, to help you in some way. But the version of you who's ready to live and rise, that's the version it's time to choose. Let's be honest. Fear doesn't disappear forever. It still whispers. It still visits you. But you no longer have to listen because now you can choose to recognize it. You can name it. You can accept it, challenge it, and then reclaim the moment. That's how you become free. Not by eliminating fear, but by choosing truth anyway. So here's what I want you to ask yourself right now. What fear have I been listening to that no longer deserves a seat at the table? Drop it in the comments below. Let someone else know that they're not alone in it. And if this message hit you, share it because someone out there is still living a life ruled by fear when they were born for freedom. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're not behind. You're becoming. You're awakening. You've always been the creator. Now, you're choosing it. I'm Mike Oglesbee, and I'm here to remind you, you were never meant to live in fear. You were meant to live in truth. Let's go.